Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's session. Children are being said to be the backbones of the future world. Maintaining children's health and safety, promoting their emotional well being, insisting social skills, and preparing children intellectually needs to be done to secure children's future. Children develop at their own pace. Developmental screening takes a closer look at how the children is developing. However, some positive parenting practices work very well across diverse families and in diverse settings. When providing the care that children need to be happy and healthy and to grow and develop well. With these interesting things, which is need of the time, where children are at home throughout the day, they need to be engaged their emotions, needs to understood, and many more challenges. So I just would like to welcome for today's session about the topic securing your children's future. So for this we have today the speaker, Mr. Prakash Chugani. So who is the ranked fourth university in during his graduation in commerce. He started his career in sales in India and continued that journey in Dubai. He's been formally and informally conducts many sessions like training delegates from all walks of life in the fields of customer service, sales, interpersonal skills, self management, stress management, coaching, and various other programs that enable individuals achieve their goals successfully. He is currently the director for training and coaching with eCube Training and Consulting. So I just welcome him today for joining us and also share about today's session where people really looking for this. Where I welcome Mr. Prakash. So it's over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. Uh, can you please make me the co host so I can share my slides as well?
Yes.
So it's amazing. It's so beautiful to be amongst this August house uh, who have come here to see how best you could support the future of your child or your children. Um, and I believe that it's such a beautiful thing to do, and there's so much of responsibility on us as parents to secure the children's future. And as a sub theme goes, what I try to suggest there is inheriting values rather than or valuables. And so, as parents, sometimes there's so much of pressure on us, and I like to bring out the pleasure aspect of parenting today to show that, many a times I think the child is mine, and so then when I have this particular notion, one is about ownership, which is good, but the other thing is about this sense that they are mine versus they are through me. And that's two different things altogether. When I understand that they are through me, that I've been an instrument to bring this child into this world, then there's a very different way in which I look at parenting. And there's a very different way in which I am able to do justice to this particular role or responsibility that I have without the pressure, but with that pleasure of bringing up some beautiful person that I have. And so let's see how we can go through and understand this journey in a very nice fashion. And before we enter that place, I just want you to sit back a little and reflect on something that you want to appreciate yourself for. There's so much we've done today, there's so much we're going to do after this, but we have 1 hour together, or maybe even less now. But there's a beautiful way to see, what do I want to appreciate myself for? What are some things I've done well? There are numerous things we've done today. Well, the fact that we come into this session today itself could be a nice thing to appreciate yourself for, amongst all the other things that we could have done. But I'm dedicating this time for my children, because we are trying to secure their future. And I'm sure we're doing a great and amazing job already. But here you've given yourself this opportunity to see what more. And it could be just one idea that you might want to take back from today's session. But that one idea might make a beautiful difference to the future of your child or your children, as the case may be. So just sit back and start with an appreciation for yourself. Anything. Thank you. Beautiful. What a beautiful way to start anything at all. Gratefulness, gratitude, and appreciating and looking at the best side of things. And when we start looking at the brighter side of things, now if I put this in front of you, what is it that you see here? Some of you might see the vase, which is this nice, beautiful yellow vase, or a vase, depending on where you come from. You'll call it, you'll give it the context that you want. And you might also see the two faces outside of this beautiful vase. And so what is it that you're seeing depends on where you're focusing. So there's this beautiful saying that what you focus on expands. And so if you're going to start focusing on the wonders that we have in this world, that's what is going to occupy the whole space. Yeah? They say the size of the sky depends on the size of your window. And so the window is the window of your eyes, not just the two eyes with which you're seeing, but also the third eye, the eye with which you're able to perceive the things through the mind of yours. And so depending on what you see, you're expanding consciously and constantly. And so when I look at myself as a parent and I see that I'm talking to this beautiful audience of parents, for me, there are two things. One is to see this particular picture and try and understand, what is it that I really notice? I see this beautiful red apple amongst a lot of other green apples. What we're trying to show here is that each and every one of us have our own uniqueness. It may not be as crystal clear as we see this particular red apple right in front of us, but we are unique. Each and every one of us are so uniquely constructed, built, and we've been sent over here to allow ourselves to experience and express this uniqueness of ours with everybody else that we meet. And so appreciating the uniqueness of my child is important. Comparison, and I'm sure many times you've heard this, is not what we should be doing with our children, because then we are stealing them away from that uniqueness. There's this beautiful joke about the kid whose father would constantly tell the child, you know, the neighbor's child, he does this. The neighbor's child is a great swimmer. The neighbor's child is, look at the person cycling. Look at the person doing all that exercise. The neighbor's child has got this particular thing, that thing, and so on and so forth. So this kid keeps getting compared to the neighbor's child. So once he went to dad and said, Dad, can you please stop comparing me to the neighbor's child? Well, how many times have I actually compared you with the child's father and said the father does this and the father does? I never do that. So please, can you stop comparing me to the child of the neighbor? And I think that's a very interesting lesson. Why is it that we don't compare? Look at this particular acorn seed over here. This is an acorn that has the potential of becoming an oak. All that we got to do is for this acorn seed to get the right environment, have the right soil, ensure that there's the right moisture, make sure that we have the right sunlight, and make sure that it has the right manure. Once it's taken care of in terms of the environment, there's a sure shot that this particular acorn is going to grow into the mighty oak. Now, if you expect this acorn to become a mango tree or a pine tree, it's impossible. And if you constantly keep comparing this acorn as it's growing to the pine trees and the mango trees and the coconut trees and saying, look how beautiful they are, look how strong those are, look how funny they are, whatever you might say, that is not going to make the acorn become those. It's still going to be the oak tree. So try and recognize what seed you got and allow the seed to develop to become its full potential self rather than wanting it to be something that you have construed in your mind or that you have seen on television or that you've observed from other people or your neighbors or even your own other son or child or daughter has capabilities of, because you're all unique. We could have the same upbringing. My brother has got some very different capabilities, very different skill sets, very different, let's say, aspirations, competencies than I do. And my sister, completely different. And so it's not fair that I compare myself to somebody else, or my parents do that comparison constantly and steal us away from our own uniqueness and steal us away from being our full, complete self. How many times have seen people who've done engineering and who've gone into certain sciences and who've gone into certain educational compartments only to come out and say, I didn't really want to do it and I've switched careers. And so, why do you do that? Well, I didn't know really why I was doing it, but just felt that was what I was put into, but I did not really connect with that. So, let's not compare, contrast, or even put them into that competitive spirit to see how they should actually start vying against some other people. But recognize that uniqueness of theirs and see how they can flourish. There was a girl who was an eighth standard, not eighth standard, she was an 8-year old who was in school. And in school, she would be very restless. Whenever something was going on in the class, she would not be able to focus. There was no attention. The teacher tried as much as she could to get this girl to start focusing, to start studying more, but she would not. And her grades would be very poor. She would do very badly in her exams. Her teacher called her, parent, and she wanted to speak to her mother. So the mother came and she explained this to her mother. Said, listen, your daughter has absolutely no interest in study. She's extremely restless. And what she also does is she does very poorly in her exams. Her grades are so horrible. She's not going to be able to move forward. You know what I feel? She needs some special education. And so I would suggest you don't send her to school anymore and see what you can do by homeschooling her or by giving her some special education. She goes back and her mom is really disturbed by what she hears, and she takes the child for a casual visit to one of the psychiatrists. And so when the psychiatrist is actually observing the two of them, they come into the clinic of the psychiatrist and they're sitting there, and he's listening to all the questions and all the description that the psychiatrist is giving about the daughter. And whilst this person's listening to them, he suddenly says, okay, listen. He turns the radio on and he takes the mother into the balcony. And as he's going out in the balcony, he says, just observe your daughter when you're standing outside. So they stand outside from the balcony, looking into this particular room where the daughter is. The radio is turned on, and they start seeing that this daughter is beautifully and gracefully dancing around in that room. She feels so nice. She felt so free. She felt so, you could see the cheer on the face. And he tells this lady, you know what? Your daughter was set to be a dancer. She wants to dance, and that's what you need to allow her to do. Mother goes back, puts her into the best of schools for dancing, and she starts dancing and enjoying herself so much. And she then starts seeing that she becomes great with the dancing, and then she starts becoming a great choreographer. The Cats, which is one of the best stage acts, which is so well choreographed, was done by the same lady. And so it was great to see that what happened is when she became a great choreographer and a great dancer, her grades in school also started moving up. And so she started doing brilliant for herself. And it's just that we were not able to recognize that this wonderful, beautiful, and most talented girl was just not meant to be in a space just like everybody else. But she had to first be recognized for who she was, her uniqueness. And the moment that was recognized, and the moment you allowed that uniqueness to flourish, she was able to go and flourish in other areas as well. And that's an interesting thing to see how, when you start understanding yourself and start appreciating and growing in that area, you will see how other areas also start growing automatically. But that's a very key part that we need to take care of. So, one is the first, start from a space of acceptance. Accept your daughter, your child, your son. Accept them as they are before you start trying to develop them. Because if you're not accepting them, then you're rejecting them, and that's not a very good space to be in. Secondly, you get this beautiful image over here. And this reminds me of the story of this little boy who was actually seeing uh, the whole cocoon stage of the caterpillar, and it was developed into this beautiful butterfly, and it was just all set to set free from its cocoon and become a lovely butterfly that could fly with its beautiful wings. But what the child did was, when it started seeing the butterfly struggling at the end, he just tried to help it, and then he set it free. Excuse me. And the moment he set it free, believing that he did a great job, because he did not allow this particular butterfly to struggle, he noticed in a few moments that one of the wings of the butterfly was damaged and it was not fully grown. And then he realized that it was because of his intervention with nature, where he felt he wanted to do something brilliant and kind for this butterfly that was struggling. But he did not realize that that struggle was the process for this particular butterfly to become whole, beautiful, and be able to fly with all its might. And so many a times we also see the children of ours struggling and we can't take it. And so we say, hey, let's intervene and see if I can help this child when it's struggling. You don't have to go and face the teacher. Let me talk to the teacher and tell the teacher that, you shouldn't be given all these tough things. Or let me come to your school and speak to those boys who are actually responsible for not respecting you as they should be doing it. So many a times we do see, but one is about being concerned and really intervening when you believe that there's danger, no doubt at all. But there are certain struggles that we don't like to see our children. I have had, so my sister-in-law is a teacher in a school, and she tells me how we've really changed so much in terms of the way we expect our expectations from schools. She said, I have parents coming to me so many times talking to me about the most little things, which are normal stuff that the children have to go through in terms of their struggle towards learning things. And they don't want that. They want the child to be exceptionally comfortable. And that is not a very good sign, because there's this beautiful saying that all our dreams lie on the other side of our comforts. So if I want to achieve my dreams, I've got to learn to move out of my comfort zone. But if I'm going to be stuck in my comfort zone, how is it going to be possible for me to achieve those dreams that I might have? Then I'm going to just be in this beautiful, cushioned, nice place, always protected. But hey, what happens when I go out into the real world? I can't stay within the safety net of my parents constantly. All right, for some time you need to do that, but also allow the struggle so that people, the children of ours, do learn from those struggles. And so remember, it's like the diamond, right? It gets hardened when it's under pressure. So when there's pressure, when there is struggle, there is something that is being strengthened within us. Below the surface, we don't see that. So uh, let's take my own example. There was a time when I left my job and I got into business. I started trying to see if I can run my own business. There was a huge amount of struggle initially. And so for the first 6 months, I was only able to see the struggle. I was able to see all the pain that I was going through. Lucky for me, my mentor and my coach came up to me and said, okay, you see all these pain, you see all these ways in which you've really been pushing yourself and struggling. What else do you see? I said, I don't see anything else. I've only just seen how, I feel so restless. I have this anxiety. I don't know what's happening tomorrow. I'm not sure how I'm going to fend for my needs. He says, what is happening whilst you're doing all that? With all of that, I just realized, I said, you know what? I've become more tolerant. I'm learning to see how I can be more creative in my ways and my methods. And so when I started seeing what's under the surface of the struggle, which is strengthening some things, some qualities are being strengthened, then I started opening myself to struggles. And then from then onwards, I started seeing how I was able to learn from all the struggles, and I was able to get something that I really wanted from there onwards. And it was a beautiful journey upwards from there. But it's so important for us to realize that our struggles are at the surface, not the top. That's what you see. But what you don't see is under the struggle, something beautiful is developing. And so trust in nature and allow the struggle to actually take place, because something lovely is going to be emerging then. Next aspect is failure. And there's a very essential requisite for failure. I mean, for success is failure. There's been certain unfortunate news that I've heard about children who commit suicide. Why? And I couldn't try and find out why. Well, this girl who used to constantly come first in class came second in class and she committed suicide. I said, wow, that's a very piteous thing to do. Why would you do such a thing? Another time when there was a true failure in terms of an exam, which was not, you were not able to pass the exam. So she couldn't see her, name on the board when she went to school. She was not amongst those who had passed. So she could not face it. She went and committed suicide. But even if not that, then there's a lot of, ways in which we see failure. Today for children, failure does not necessarily mean exams and failing over there. It could just mean that I don't get enough likes on Facebook. I don't get enough likes on Instagram. There's not too many top people commenting on what I'm putting up. And sometimes they look at that as failure. And so we've got to learn to try and help our children to come face to face with failure. When we see them fail, what is it we say to them? We tell them, you know what, you failed because people out there don't recognize true talent. You failed in that race not because you were bad, because there was some partiality that took place. And I've actually seen parents who try to support their child so much that they're not even letting them understand that failure is okay. You know what, you failed. Please, that's perfectly fine. You have failed. And let me tell you, you are not as good as the others. And that's why you failed. So what do you do now? Simple. Work harder. Allow them to work hard. Just don't let them believe that everything they do, they should be successful with. And if they're not successful, I'm not going to love you. So I give you a party. I'm very happy. I can really hug you tight because you passed, because you were successful, because you got the first rank. Hey, would I still get that hug when I got the third rank? At the same level as you gave it to me at first? Or would you give me the hug because I worked very hard? I didn't get the first rank, but I really made great effort. So how we behave with our children's success and with their failures will to a large extent set their mindset as well on failures and success. If they start recognizing, or if they start sensing that my parents love me when I'm successful, my parents give me more when I'm successful, my parents are closer to me when they're successful, I feel a stronger acceptance in my family when there's more success. That's it. Even it also has to do with the way you speak about others. I mean, if constantly you're talking about only showing people success outside, and you're constantly appreciating and talking about those successes of others, what is it that I'm thinking? Hey, you know what? I better be successful. Otherwise, it's going to be a downhill for me. I'm not going to be very happy. I remember the time when I was driving in the car with my brother and my mother. And I remember my brother pointing out to one beautiful, huge building and telling my mother, look at this building. Who built this? It was built by so-and-so who's from our same town. He went abroad, made a lot of money, and he's got this building. Wow, that's truly what life should really be like. That's what success is. And so I could see how they were really looking at, appreciating and admiring it. And so what really struck to me instantly was, for me also, if I was to be successful, this is what success means. And so for me, that became something that I had to look forward to. I had to struggle for myself to get that. And if I was not able to get that, I really felt that I was insufficient. I was not good enough. I wasn't worth it. And that is not a very good thing for anybody to leave in taste with. Yes, appreciate those great things. Appreciate people's successes. But at the same time, allow people, your children, to know that you're also appreciating hard work. You're also appreciating people for who they are, and not necessarily only in those spaces. And that will come to my next part when I speak about how we probably talk about valuables more than values many a time in our conversations. But when you look at failures, research by Kellogg School of Management, Professor Dashun Wang did this wonderful research. He said every success began with failure. Not every failure translates into success, which means that it doesn't mean that because you failed, you will succeed. But anybody who succeeded in life had to fail before. And what was key was you had to learn from those failures. And timing was quick. So, which means that if I failed, if I went for I participated in a race and I failed, I had to learn from it. Okay, what did I have to learn from it? And I had to go back quickly again and see if I could fail quickly. They said fail fast, fail frequently, and fail forward. And that's what the whole study showed. So, don't just give up because you failed once. Your mindset is only success, then you don't want to fail at all, and you don't take risks. You don't go and try things out. You will only try things that you're sure of, and only if you know you're going to succeed, only then you'll try it. And that's a wrong mindset to have for the child. So allow them to fail and let them know that, listen, if you fail, don't just say that you failed because of other reasons. You failed because you should be trying harder. So learn your lesson from that, go back and try it again. And so that's a beautiful key to take. And this was a research that was done. So let yourself to fail as well. You as a parent as well need to come to terms with failure. Be more vulnerable. It's okay if I fail, and I can not only talk about failures, but talk about the lessons you learn from the failures, and therefore how, although you failed, you're still going back and trying again. That makes your child much, much stronger. And that's the legacy that we really should be leaving for them than anything else. A gift, talking about a true legacy, the gift that you want to give your child is not valuables. Yeah. I have seen parents who want to secure the future uh, from the time that they think about the education, which is fair enough, giving them the education. And then they think about their marriage, and then about their children, and about their vacations. And they're trying to think about their entire life and trying to see, you know what, I went through a lot of troubles and pain. I don't want to give that to my child. So I want to give them all the valuables. So they're collecting a lot and holding a lot for their children. And you can imagine if you're going to give everything on a platter to your child, what's the child going to be doing then? I mean, you've given the child your values, given them education, you've given them wisdom. That should really take them to whichever level and whichever chart, the course they want to go forward to. So, what is it you really want to give your child? Remember, you got to give them values, not valuables. Values are most valuable. They are invaluable. That's what they call values, and they stand the test of time. You may give them valuables today, but if they don't have the right values, those valuables are going to be used incorrectly, inappropriately, misused, disproportionately. And so that's the only thing that they'll start valuing then, valuables. And so that's going to not really give them the best way forward in life. But if you give them values, they will learn how to build whatever valuables they think is important for them. They will know how to utilize it, and they will know how best to help others with whatever they actually have been given. So, what are those values you can give? How do you give your child values? A very important question. How do I teach my child to respect everybody? How do I teach my child integrity? How do I teach my child courage? The only way you can teach your child these values, and I'm sure you're already guessing it. Can I hear somebody on the chat box just to make it a little bit more interactive? What is the best way what's the best way to teach your child values? How can you teach your child values? Can somebody just put your comments on the chat box? Let's hear one or two just to know that you're with me. Otherwise, it's going to be just me talking. Okay, we show him as an example. All right, so I can guess that you have the boy. All right, so yes, very well said there, Komal. You teach them values by adopting it yourself. The only way you teach people values is by demonstrating it. You inculcate the value so they can see it. If I want them to be more peaceful, I want them to be more courageous, I want them to be more happy, I want them to be more, I want them to have integrity, I want honesty, I must demonstrate that. And I must demonstrate that in my life so that that's what they're watching, that's what they're observing, and you won't believe it. That's the greatest responsibility that I have as a parent, is to see how I can give my child those values, not those valuables. Now, let's take you in this journey and show you how you can actually first adopt it yourself and then give it to others. So I want you to just think about anybody in your life that inspires you. Think about somebody in your life who inspires you. It could be somebody in your family. It could be somebody in your workplace. It could be some business guru. It could be a leadership guru. It could be somebody who's from politics. Anybody. Who is it that you are inspired by? Okay, now I hope you all have at least one name, and I'm sure you got that. I want you to think about three positive qualities that you admire in them. What are the three positive qualities that you admire in them? I'd like you to just make note of it. If you can write it somewhere, it's great, but just three positive qualities. On the chat box, can you just at least type one positive quality that you saw in them? One quality, if not three. If you have all the three, please type them on the chat box. Otherwise, at least one positive quality that you saw. If you could just put that in the chat box. Okay, I can see somebody's already. Okay. What is a positive quality that you see in your... Okay, discipline is one. And the person that you look up to. Somebody inspires you. Discipline. Anybody else? Insight. Okay, beautiful. Thank you for that. Somebody is very insightful. Let's just take one more and then we can move on. So I know that we're all together, and there's a very good reason why I want you to, determination. Okay, good. So let me share the good news with you. If you've seen this in somebody and that inspires you, it means that you have this quality yourself. You value this a lot. That's why you saw it in the other people. Because there are so many people around the world, billions of people, but you chose this one person as the one who inspires you. And of all those things that the person might have in terms of qualities, this is the one that stood out mostly for you. It means that that's something that you value a lot and you resonate with. But remember, you cannot see something or you cannot appreciate something unless you have it in yourself as well. And so you got this quality in you. And so what you should start doing to be true and to be honest, yes, that's the honesty. So when we look at what we can do for our kid is, first we should start adopting these values ourselves. And I must change my belief. I must truly start believing myself. And I should start changing my belief from what I used to think before is, I will be peaceful when I'm able to do this. I will be happy if this takes place. I will be happy if I get the promotion. I will be peaceful when so-and-so stops behaving in some fashion. So what has happened is, if that's the belief I have divorced myself from my qualities and I've made them conditional to an environment outside. And I've started saying that I will only have all these qualities if these environments are perfectly fine with me. But that's disempowering. And that's not the truth either. What's the true wisdom? I am peaceful. I am insightful. I am determined, and therefore I can do anything that I put my mind to. I am disciplined. And so I am able to think properly. I'm able to do things in the way that I should want them to be done. And so whatever your definition of that quality may be, just try and dissect it for you and understand that you are that quality. And just don't aspire for it, but be it. That's the start. They say anything that you can conceive and believe, you can achieve. Conceiving is trying to understand the meaning of it. So if you say determined, if you say cheerful, if you say insightful, peaceful, what is the meaning of it? What does it really mean to you? Understand it. Conceive it first. Conceive the idea. And then have belief in it, that yes, I am that person. And yes, you must believe it, because you see, they say that our bodies are made up of 65 to 70% liquids. And that's why we need to consume more and more water, because that's what I am all about. And so I have these qualities in me, which is why I'm constantly looking at others and I'm trying to see how I can pick up more of these qualities. It doesn't mean that I don't have it. I got it. There may be times when I step outside these qualities and I might behave inappropriately. And I might sit down there and think that unless this happens, that's not going to happen. But that's not the truth. The truth is that it is already there in you. Start focusing in it, believing in it, and it'll start growing. Like we started, what you focus on expands. And when you start believing and understanding that you are these qualities, it expands. Now, this is what we need to give our child. We need to give them this belief that these qualities, the core of whatever we're looking outside, exists inside me. And so I might be talking about all the valuables and all those successes of people, but if I'm just having that in my conversations always, I am not allowing them the opportunity to let this thing grow. Their values are most valuable, they will not understand that. If I just give it lip service, but I myself have all my focus, my mindset, everything on my valuables. Well, it does not mean that we don't need valuables. It does not mean that we don't need money. It doesn't mean that we don't have to take care of our comforts. That's not what I'm suggesting. We definitely have the capacity to look after ourselves. We must go out and do that. Nevertheless, is that what I'm giving all value to? Is that always what my conversation's about? Is that always what I'm appreciating? And if that's the case, then I'm not really supporting them. But if I'm able to let them know that, okay, these are required for our sustenance, very important, no doubt at all. However, what you really need to understand and value is what's inside of you. And that will happen only when you start valuing it yourself, not by telling it to them. And so self-belief, very important. How do you restore your mental strength? You use the technique of SOS. Anybody knows what's SOS? Yes, we say it's save our souls. And that's a district signal. When we are trying to save our souls in the real sense, what happens is many a times, although I am peaceful, I know that can be times when I feel very stressed. Things might be happening around me. My mind is, getting preoccupied by a lot of things that are happening there. And I'm creating unnecessary thoughts, which are not, I know that these thoughts are not needed. They're not good thoughts. They're not helping me. But I'm finding it a little bit of a struggle for me to be able to restore my true state of mental peace, to relax my mind. And so then there's a beautiful technique called SOS. What does it say? Stand back, observe, and steer. And so let me just demonstrate that with a very quick example, and we'll do that together. A short visualization. I want you to just visualize yourself on a platform of a railway station. And you've got trains arriving and departing from both the sides. And as you watch these trains arrive and depart, you can't do nothing to those trains. You're just watching them. They come, they go, they come, they go. You're watching them, unaffected by the trains. But just as you did that, I want you to now visualize yourself observing all your thoughts. Just like the trains, you have thoughts that are coming and going. But you're not interfering with them. You are not judging them. You're not holding any of those things. You just watch them come and go. Come and go. And now you choose the thought that you want to create, which is most important thought to you. Start with a self-belief. I am powerful. I have the power to choose my thought. I have the power to let go of a thought that I don't need. And I am powerful. I have the power to restore my state of energy. I have the power to restore my state of peacefulness and relaxation. And I have the power. To start with that beautiful thought. And then you can go on to another thought which is required for you for that moment. You may be cooking, you may be sending an email to somebody, you may be having a conversation with somebody, but if you find that your mind is going astray, it's getting too caught up in materialistic things also for that matter, it's nice to do as SOS. Sometimes it's going a little negative and you can see it's really not helping you. Do an SOS quickly. It saves your soul. SOS. Stand back, observe the mind, and watch thoughts coming and going. Don't interfere with those thoughts. Just see them and say, okay, fine. And then let a beautiful, nice thought come inside and steer yourself in that direction. Yeah? So you're observing your mind and you're not doing anything to it. It's just like watching a movie, a theater. You probably are there on the screen, but you're away from it. But you're then steering in the direction that you are. So this is a beautiful practice that helps you to restore your mental state, to bring it back into normalcy, and to even help you to feel all those beautiful qualities that are inside of you. So what have I done? Just a quick recap, a very quick recap. You secure the future of your child firstly by accepting them as they are, not by comparing them and expecting them to be somebody else or for them to fit in with everybody else, not necessarily. I've had parents coming to me and complain and telling me, Prakash, my kid is bad at this. My kid cannot do this. Other children are able to be so, outgoing and this and that. My child can't. Hey, no, start accepting them first before you start rejecting them. And many times they say it in front of me. They speak about all the defects of a child right in front of me. And that's not a very good thing to do. That's something that we need to have as one-to-one with my child. Don't tell everybody about it. They don't like it. They feel very insecure. Accepting first. To value them when they have struggles. There is value in struggle. So if you see them struggling, don't try to make everything rosy for them. No, allow them to struggle, because underneath the struggle, they are strengthening those qualities and values, which is very important when they go out into the real world. So let them struggle so that they get that strength. They've seen it, they've felt it. Every time they go through a struggle, and it could be a tough one, tomorrow if the same situation comes, they know how to deal with it. That will not even be a problem for them. Face failures. Let them face failures. Do not just cover the failures up and say, no, you're not failed. You're a great guy. You're built for success and nothing else. No. Let them know that hard work is important. Learning is important. So if that is a failure, that is perfectly fine. But what have you learned from the failure? Self-belief. Allow them to know that within them they have all those core qualities that sometimes people believe is outside. No. Outside are comforts. They are physical things outside. But within you, you have all those qualities that you want to experience. So peace, love, happiness, courage, integrity, honesty. Those are the ones that are really going to support you throughout your entire life. This is permanent. This is something that you're going to truly be respected for. This is when you truly know that you got great relationships. Those things outside, they're not necessarily forever. They may come, they may go. And if people are respecting you for that, then that's not what the respect you need. You really need the respect for what's inside. So that's what you have to do, but you've got to start demonstrating it yourself. And finally, focus. Last but not the least, you've got to spend some time in solitude, in quietness. And then you need to be able to see how you can go into the space of I am. And then feel it, experience it. Do the SOS, clear the mind, and then focus on what is most important. Focus on the true values of yours inside. And if you do this, then we are set for some fantastic time. I'd like to leave you with this beautiful quote. Don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds that you plant. And so remember that you're planting your seeds every single day, and just long as you do those beautiful sowing of the seeds, everything else will be taken care of by themselves. With that, I'd like to leave you for question and answers. Would you have any questions? I'll be very happy to answer them. You can unmute yourself and ask me questions if you like. If you feel you want to put them in the chat box, that's also perfectly fine. You may not be able to unmute yourself. I think we got to unmute you. Okay, so I don't think I can unmute you, but on the chat box, can you please, if you have any questions, would you like to put that on the chat box? Yeah, I can see. You can unmute yourself, I guess. Does anybody have any question? Yes. The item on focus, is it intended for the kid or for the parent? The focus is intended for the parent. The focus of, those the core qualities of yours that I am is intended for the parent. It's a beautiful tool to teach a child as well, to allow them to start focusing inside. But you'll be doing lip service if you're not doing it yourself first. So to start with, it's you. And when you start focusing inside, you start valuing those true values inside and start showing that this values that inside of me is independent of the valuables outside of me. And so when you are able to show that uh, by demonstrating yourself, then you've done a great job for your child. You don't even need to go and tell it to them because they are the best observers. Your kids can pick it up like that. They're so good at absorbing things. And so when they start seeing what you truly value, they will also start valuing those things. And thank you for that question, Tony. Okay, how to come across the children's hyper emotions? Okay, so there's another quick question on emotions and hyper emotions, and I can see some of the questions coming. I'll try and see if I can get those. Um, so we have children who got hyper emotions. The first thing is, again, accept my child as he is or she is. I remember my own cousin has this child who is now about 4 years old and as hyper as could be. And he was struggling, and his school as well said, this school is too hyper. They actually had a separate person just to sit and take care of this chap in class. That much hyper. Uh, but they spoke to me, and my first thing was accept the child. And I also asked them, hyper emotions, what are the other good things? They said, this person has got this, the person's got that. So a lot of great things. The only thing is hyper emotion. I said, okay, fantastic. If you see all those greatness, it's just that the child wants to probably do more of certain other things. So just give them those opportunities and see how the person evolves. And so they just start accepting the child without trying to keep, looking at why is so hyper and, struggling with that particular one emotion whilst you're ignoring all those other beautiful things. So recognize your child and know that having those emotions, okay, there's nothing wrong with my child. It's just the way the child is built right now. So I accept the child from that space and see how I can have those energies diverted in ways that are possible for me. And I give more time to my child. I'm there with them and, letting them, emote and do what they've got to do. Whilst I'm not just, trying to see that I'm very busy and tied up and I have a lot of things to do. And therefore, I want to just stay quiet. No, I think this requires more time. The child is giving you certain messages and try and understand those messages and see how you can be with the child during those times. Yeah, I don't know if this is being recorded. I think it's being recorded. Okay, so I have another question. So addicted to television, as we are working from home, I cannot pay attention if I don't put television on, and he keeps disturbing me what to do. Unfortunately, in this period, we started playing TV. Yes, I would think the child may not be disturbing you, but the child believes and feels that the TV is disturbing the child because a child feels that he or she wants the attention of the parent, very rightly so. And that's why we've been made instruments to bring those children into this beautiful world. And so if I've been made instrument, then my first responsibility is for that lovely child of mine. And so if that's the case, then I need to see that anything else that takes me away is actually a disturbance. And so if the child is coming in between, it means that the child really needs my attention. And I think that is the right thing for the child to do. And we need to give the child more attention. So I feel it's, we've got to do a certain sacrifices. We got to let go of a few things that we believe we need, and we got to see how we could truly, you see, there's a word called entertainment, and there's another word called recreation. So while meditating, by contemplating, by what we just did right now, we are able to recreate ourselves, So we need to start seeing how I can find ways of being able to recreate myself quickly so that I'm available for the child. And so certain things so we've got to change a few things when we know we have certain responsibilities, especially at a certain age and time. We've got to really give it to them. Explain struggling in detail. So, yeah, thanks for that question. When I said struggling, I'm really saying I mean, I'm trying to see how we have parents who are trying to free children from struggle. We're trying to ensure that they have been given everything that makes them feel comfortable right now. Whatever food they want, I'll give it to you. Tell me what you want. You like this? You don't like this? Take this. Take this. So, everything that makes it easier for them is what we're trying to provide them. And then what happens is, because of us trying to give it all to them on a silver platter, they have just that one way of knowing that this is how I'm supposed to be living. But that's not the case. You got to let them know that there is a struggle that you need to do. I mean, this particular thing is good for your health, and we don't have a choice. We've made this for everybody today, and we got to have this for dinner or for lunch, and that's how it should be. So we're trying to see how we can allow them to struggle a little bit, but then there's certain things that are being strengthened because of struggle. But if I just don't want to see any struggle and we want to give them everything, then we are depriving them from strengthening themselves. So allow them to struggle a little bit. It's perfectly okay. But then they have to pick up things like I spoke to you about the school as well. They go to school, they tell the teacher that you're giving too much homework, or you're doing this, or you're doing that. And so they're trying to negotiate on behalf of the child, which never used to happen before. So no, there are certain struggles that are there, meant for them to become stronger. Let that be there. Okay, another query is, neighbor's kid is 7-year-old and is extremely rude to my child. How do I react to this as a mother? I get super protective to my son and feel bad on how the 7-year-old is behaving. Protective is good, it's okay, but super protective is something that you need to check for yourself for. I feel as long as there's a safe environment where you don't see a child being abused in any way, it's okay for the child to realize that, there are different types of people in this world. And if he's really 3.5, that's really small. You can, if you can avoid somebody like that in terms of company, if you feel it's really overbearing, it's better to just avoid and not let him do that. So that's fine. That's fine. I mean, we at the risk of struggle, we don't want to put them in risk of any danger. So that's very important for us. So if you sense any danger, then please see how you talk to your neighbor and find out how you'll do not have any danger to your child. Okay, good. Anything else? How to explain a 20-year-old child who wants to go 3 years behind from his MBBS studies to study the same again for change of college? Oh, wow, that's a very interesting one. And so here is, and I've seen this happening in many cases. It could be a change of college, it could be a change of a stream of education. It could be an environment. So I had my boss's daughter who was in Canada, spent about 1.5 years, 2 years, lots of energy spent in getting her there and doing what she had to do. Suddenly she calls it quits. She says, I don't like the environment. And so I've seen this happening many times. And obviously as parents, you kind of say, okay, you try to see if they can take the struggle. That's the first thing. You say, okay, listen, see if whatever you're going through, what are you learning from it? And trying to see that they can become stronger with that. And it's not about telling them. I think it's trying to be a coach, especially for 20-year-old. You can't tell things to them. They got to be, you got to use the coaching style. And you want to ask them and listen to them. Really, purity of listening, empathetic listening, active listening. And just try and see where they're coming from. What is this really root cause of these issues? And if you can be with your child and without your own judgments of this is good for you, this is what you should be doing, it's a very difficult space to be in, but that's a nice space to be in, trying to see if I can really understand my child empathetically and go along with the child and see what's best for him or her. That might really help. Lots will actually open up when you start becoming empathetic and listening and questioning more than judging or having a preconceived notion of what is required for the child. Okay, I don't see any more questions. So let's take a short, let's do a meditation together. that will help us to go back to the core and let us bring those values out. Um, so we just got 4 minutes. So let's just sit back and take a deep breath in and out once. Allow your muscles to relax. See that your whole body is loose. And in that space, allow all your energies to focus inwards. Observe your thoughts, and you may have some thoughts coming and some going. Observe them and then create this beautiful thought that I am powerful. I can choose the thoughts I want to choose and the feelings I want to feel through my thoughts. And I am peaceful. Allow the mind to focus on these qualities of power and peace only for some time. All right, thank you so much. So I'll hand over back to Sister Gayatri, Rajula Center. Let me unmute you, please. I'll make you the host, yes.
There is one more question for you. So they're asking, like, children are missing outside activities and joining with their friends, how to overcome this current situation.
Yeah, this is quite a rare situation. My only suggestion is I think parents should be more with the children outdoors. When we are so preoccupied indoors, we expect them to be outdoors with their friends. Then obviously that's what they're going to be doing. Try and be with them. Try and encourage them to be outside. Appreciate the fact that they're doing things outside, and so yeah, you also schedule time with them outdoors rather than you have your own plan and timetable indoors and they have it outdoors and they expect it to be outdoors. So it's nice that you are with them, you have some engaging activities, then play with them, do some sports with them, and so see if you can also be a part of their outdoor activities so that they enjoy your company, and they learn a lot of your values outside as well, because many times they go outside, they don't know the spirit of failing there as well. They're playing with friends and they don't like to fail. They want to only be successful, and they only want to probably be out there doing the best and there. So yes, let them know that they got to learn and they got to practice, they got to work harder. So they may learn a lot of beautiful things from you outdoors as much as indoors, because for us also, imagine our lives are as sedentary as can ever be. We are living very sedentary lives. We need to be outdoors, not just because we want to have a good body, but because it's very good for my health overall. Very, very healthy practice to have more activities outside. Because now our transport, in fact, we just take a bus and go where you want to go, or drive where you want to go. So our transport is down. In terms of our usual physical activities, before we used to probably be in the farms, we don't do that anymore. We're more having most of our jobs on our laptops. So our lifestyle has changed and we've become very sedentary. It's not our fault, but that's how things have changed. And so force yourself, make your children your excuse to be outdoors with them, and that'll be a good way to do. It'll be two things you'll achieve at the same time.
I think many of the questions even they haven't put in the chat box, even they are in YouTube also. So I think they are being answered. So it's something like we all want to give to our children. So how to give is all important. And so even small things or with our small mistakes, so it makes so much of effect on our ideas and way of giving. So you just kept gave it in a simple way, like even small corrections in givings and way of being with them make lot of difference, like accepting them. So even making them to accept their failures and value their struggle and all these things. So these are small things. Our change in this attitude brings a lot of difference in our parenting. So thank you very much for giving such beautiful insights to our parenting styles, whatever people following now. So I hope all have enjoyed and got a new way of getting along with the children. Thank you, and even all the participants giving their time and being in front of the screen for such a long time. And I would like to thank Mr. Prakash for joining us today. And so, if any questions and all, still you can email us or leave in the chat box. Later on, we can follow up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stay safe. Take care.
Bye bye, everybody.